Let's learn a little bit about the sieges. What we're standing in here now, not just a windbreaker, but is a siege shelter. So these were constructed in times of siege to protect women and children in particular from incoming arrow and cannon fire, and also from the elements, wind and rain and whatnot. There have been 5 sieges of Limerick. 3 of them in the Middle Ages, and they're kind of more important ones. So the first siege of Limerick, as I said already, was when Irish Catholic Army initially formed in Northern Ireland. They decided they'd had enough of the oppression of the English and the Protestants. So they organised themselves and they slaughtered a couple of thousand Protestant soldiers up in the north, and then they started marching south. This was in the year 1640, and by 1641 they had reached Limerick, and they'd liberated most of the towns and cities between the north and Limerick. Now, the mayor of Limerick at the time was supposedly an Irish Protestant, which meant he would have been upper class and loyal to the Crown of England. However, he was actually a double agent, secretly Catholic, and he had been feeding information to the Irish Confederate Army for years. So, when they landed down in Limerick, Mayor Fanning was his name, Dominic Fanning. He gave the call to the wealthier people of Limerick to garrison inside the walls of King John's Castle to protect them. It's about 800 people, kind of wealthier men, women and children, all inside the walls of the castle. What they were actually in here for was to run the city's store of food and fresh water out as it was being sieged. Essentially bring the city to its knees so it would surrender quickly. Everybody was stuck inside the castle, and when they were locked inside the castle, he opened the gates of the city and let the soldiers, about 5,000 men strong, walk into the city, and they surrounded King John's Castle. Now, the Irish Confederate Army, though large in number, did not have a lot of firepower, so they had some pistols and whatnot, 2 cannons, but that just wasn't enough to get through the walls of King John's Castle. The walls are up to 10 feet thick in places. 2 cannons are not getting through it. So, what they did is they decided to dig under the walls. The idea was you dig a tunnel, then you plant barrels of gunpowder, set light to fuse, you run like the devil, wait for the barrel to explode, collapse the wall down in on top of itself. This is called a siege tunnel or siege mine. When the people on the inside realized what was happening, they start building their own tunnel. The idea was, so the first tunnel was going underneath the wall, the second tunnel was trying to go underneath the first tunnel, blow up their tunnel before they could make it to the wall and blow up the wall.
Bit of back and forth there.
Yep. What actually happened was, because they were only going off sound, they didn't know exactly where the other tunnelers were. 2 tunnelers actually met head on and there was a battle down in the tunnels, and it was mainly just one person versus one person. When the person in front dies, the guy behind him steps over his body and carries on the fight. So we found guns and bullets and swords and whatnot down in the siege tunnels, and we'll go down and have a look at that in a minute. But alas, the Irish army was successful. They brought down the wall of King John's Castle, strolled in, executed the soldiers, let the women and children go, and executed Fanning in there. For 9 years, the Irish Confederate Army held Limerick. It was actually probably the closest Ireland came to winning its independence via combat from England up until we see the War of Independence in the 1900s.